Osun State Governor Ademola Adeleke directs establishment of holding camps for displaced in-persons in warring communities. On a foreign scene, Atlantic publishes more details on attack plans against Yemen's Houthi rebels amid leaked chart rule in U.S. Good evening, this is News at 7 on Western Spring Television. I am Timitope Ajijola Oluwaola. The Court of Appeal, Abuja, has directed all interested parties in the Kano Emirship tussle to exercise caution pending the hearing of their appeals of the Supreme Court. The Appellate Court also stayed actions previously delivered against the reinstatement of Muhammadu Sanusi II as the 16th Emir of Kano. In a unanimous ruling delivered by a three-member panel of justices, led by Justice Biobele Judgewell, the court upheld the withdrawal of the application filed by the Kano State Government after the transmission of the record of appeal to the Supreme Court. The Kano State Government had reinstated Muhammadu Sanusi II as the 16th Emir of Kano pursuant to the Kano State Emirate Council Law 2024. The same law validated the removal of Aminu Ado Bayero as the 15th Emir, along with 4 first-class emirs appointed by the former governor, Abdullahi Ganduje. And while on March 14, 2025, Justice Okon Abang, in a ruling, ordered a stay of execution of the appeal court's earlier judgment, validating the reinstatement of Muhammadu Sanusi II as the 16th Emir of Kano. At the resumed hearing on the reinforcement of its earlier orders, counsel to the Kano State Government, Ibrahim Wangida, informs the court of a notice of appeal filed against the stay of execution order issued on March 14, 2025. Upon its submission, the court ordered parties to exercise caution pending the hearing of their appeals before the Supreme Court. Now to legislative matters. The Senate on Wednesday mandated the Senate Committee on Communications to investigate the recent increase in the cost of data and recommend solutions for a more sustainable and business-friendly telecommunications sector. This was part of resolutions after a debate on a bill sponsored by Senator Asuko Ekpeyang, which highlights the financial strain the price hike has placed on millions of Nigerians, particularly young people, who rely on affordable internet access for their livelihoods. The bill noted that an over 200% increase in costs had placed significant financial strain on millions of Nigerians, especially young people who rely on the internet for their livelihood. The bill identified multiple factors contributing to the high cost of the telecommunications in Nigeria, including poor infrastructure and unreliable power supply, high input duties on ICT equipment, multiple taxation and excessive regulatory charges, among others.
The motion before us is the urgent need to address the increased cost of data services in Nigeria. The Senate notes that telecommunication providers in Nigeria have recently increased the cost of data services by as much as 200%, a move that has placed significant financial strain on millions of Nigerians, especially young people who rely on the internet for their livelihood. The Senate further notes that young Nigerians have embraced the digital economy, leveraging the internet for various income-generating activities, including freelancing and remote work, direct marketing and social media management, e-commerce, online trading, software development, web design, mobile app creation, content creation on various platforms, online education, etc. The Senate is concerned that fiber optic internet services remain unaffordable for the average young Nigerians, leaving them heavily dependent on mobile telecommunications companies for internet access, and that the sudden and substantial increase in data costs threatens their economic survival and limits access to critical digital services. The Senate is further concerned that the reasons provided by telecom providers for the data price hike include high operational costs, unfavorable exchange rates, are untenable, and appears that instead of addressing the root causes of the high cost of doing business in Nigeria, the burden is being unfairly transferred to end users. The Senate is aware that the high cost of doing business in Nigeria is driven by multiple challenges, such as increased operational risk and insurance costs. The Senate believes that urgent government intervention is required to ensure that affordable internet access remains available to all Nigerians, particularly the young Nigerians who are the backbone of Nigeria's digital economy. Distinguished colleagues, we are at the fourth industrial revolution, the Internet of Things. A fast, reliable, and affordable internet is a precursor for Nigeria's effective participation in this industrial revolution. The Senate accordingly resolves to urge the federal government to engage with telecommunication providers to review the recent increase in data costs and ensure the pricing remains fair and affordable for all Nigerians. Call on the Federal Ministry of Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy to develop a policy framework for affordable internet access in Nigeria. C.
In another development, the Senate on Wednesday passed a bill mandating the compulsory registration of citizens, aiming to overhaul Nigeria's identity management system through the repeal and reenactment of the National Identity Management Commission Act. The passage follows the submission and consideration of a report by the Committee on National Identity Card and Population, chaired by Senator Victor Ume, representing Anambra Central. Ume explains that the legislation seeks to establish a harmonized, cost-effective identity system that aligns with global best practices, enhances data accuracy, promotes inclusion, and closes existing gaps in Nigeria's identity database. Once signed into law, the bill also provides for the creation of a centralized database and a commission responsible for registering citizens and issuing identity cards. It now awaits consideration by the House of Representatives before being forwarded to the President for assent.
The Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, at its sitting on Tuesday, 2nd July 2024, read for the second time the bill for an act to repeal the National Identity Management Commission Act 2007 and to provide for the establishment of National Identity Database, the National Identity Management Commission, charged with the responsibilities for maintenance of national database, the registration of individuals, and the issuance of identity credentials, and for related matters, SB 472. And the same bill was referred to the Committee on National Identity Cards and Population for further legislative action. The bill was sponsored by distinguished Senator Jibrin Barau, and it seeks to establish the National Identity Management Commission to manage the country's national identity management system, mandate the creation of national identity database to store citizens' biometric and demographic data, make it compulsory for all citizens to register for purposes including government services, financial transactions, and so on and so forth, provided for protection of citizens' personal data and privacy, empower NIMC to issue regulations and guidelines for the implementation of the Act and for other related matters. The committee held a public hearing on Wednesday, the 23rd of July 2024, in order to get views and opinions of stakeholders and the general public, collected memoranda from the general public, and consulted with legal drafting experts. 17 stakeholders appeared before the committee during the public hearing. The objectives of the bill are as follows: to provide for the establishment of national identity database for the nation, establish the National Identity Management Commission charged with responsibility for maintenance of the national identity database, registration of registrable persons, issuance of identity credentials, and superintend over identities management issues. To strengthen the legal framework of national and digital identity, thereby creating an optimal foundational identification ecosystem that fosters inclusion, universal coverage, and accessibility.
While there was a heated debate at the Nigerian Senate on Wednesday following a motion to honor the former chairman of the National Electoral Commission who supervised the historic June 12, 1993 presidential election, late Professor Humphrey Nwosu. On Wednesday, the lawmaker representing Abia South, Senator Eyinaya Baribe, and several co-sponsors from the minority caucus, largely representing the Southeast geopolitical zone, brought a motion on the matters of urgent public importance, seeking to immortalize the late academic for his role in the country's democratic evolution. However, as he proceeded was the motion, having been granted leave by the presiding Deputy Senate President, Senator Barao Jibrin, Baribe was interrupted by a point of order raised by the Senate leader, Senator Bayemi Bamidele. Bamidele argued that senators did not have copies of the motion, which he deemed a procedural breach. Baribe protested, asserting that the copies were available, leading to a tense atmosphere in the chamber as he insisted on proceeding with the motion. When Baribe eventually moved the motion and it was put to a voice vote, Deputy President of the Senate, Barao Jibrin, ruled in favor of the nays, rejecting any further action on the motion.
The Senate shall, by resolution, regulate its procedure. So even if the Senate leader says that it doesn't follow, by the fact that a senator wants to make a personal explanation, you must give that senator a chance to make that personal explanation. We are not under a dictatorship, Mr. President. That is why I'm using 1B to come. A discussion you say we can't talk, we don't talk.
Former minority leader,
Thank you, Mr.
very
President.
experienced.
I'm glad that you recognize that I was a former minority leader.
Thank you very much.
I know the rules.
Yes, former majority leader, former minority leader. When we came this morning, you approached me in respect of your desire to bring forward this motion under Order 4151. You never told me you were bringing it under Order 42. And when it came under 4151, it was defeated. Now you change your mind to bring it under Order 42. We are all, we know, we respect you very well. That wasn't discussed. If it was discussed, when the leader came in, I called him. I said, Senator Abaribe is bringing a motion under 4151, and we agreed. Normally have to consult with the leadership. And we agreed that it was going to be brought forward. But leader, did I tell you that he's going to bring a motion under Order 42? So you didn't approach me, you didn't tell me. And I just want to be transparent and plain. You didn't tell me. If you had told me, there's no way I would have stopped it. There's a process. If you have told us that you are going to bring this motion under Order 42, we will oblige you.
Mr. President, I don't know what is controversial for immortalizing Humphrey Nwosu and
Jim Kuta on the Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria Act Amendment Bill 2025, SB 756. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
The Clerk of the Senate.
At the Green Chamber, 42 constitutional amendment bills on Wednesday killed second reading at the House of Representatives. Among the bills was the one to remove the immunity conferred on the Vice President, governors, and the deputies to curb corruption, eradicate impunity, and enhance accountability in public office. This followed 39 constitutional amendment bills that scaled second reading in the Green Chamber on Tuesday. Some of the proposals include a bill to separate the offices of the Attorney General of the Federation, Attorney General of a state from the offices of the Minister of Justice of the federal government, and Commissioner for Justice of the government of a state, and another bill to grant citizenship rights to spouses of women from Nigeria, specify the minimum number of youths and women that may be appointed into specific offices. Other bills include those to create Ijebu State, Ife-Jesha State, Tiga State, Olu State, and Etiti State. The bills brought the total so far passed through second reading to 81.
A bill for an act to alter the provisions of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 to decentralize the governance of natural resources in the Federal Republic of Nigeria, transfer mines and minerals, including oil fields, oil mining, geological surveys, and natural gas from the executive legislative list to the concurrent legislative list and for related matters. Second reading. A bill for an act to alter the second schedule to the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 to rename and transfer fingerprints, identification and criminal records in Part 1, exclusive legislative list to Part 2, concurrent legislative list and for related matters. Second reading. A bill for an act to alter the concurrent legislative list of the second schedule to the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 to insert a new paragraph which provides for road, toll, and for related matters. Second reading. A bill for an act to alter the provisions of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended to move construction of roads other than Trunk A, federal roads, concurrent legislative list, and for related matters. Second reading. A bill for an act to alter the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended to provide for the inclusion of tourism and tourism-related matters on the concurrent legislative list and for related matters. Second reading. A bill for an act to alter the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 to insert a new item in the executive legislative list with respect to piracies and crimes committed on the high seas and for related matters. Second reading. A bill for an act to alter the second schedule to the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended, transfer quarantine from the
President Bola Tinubu has assented to the South-West Development Commission Bill, the South-South Development Commission Bill, and the Nigeria Anti-Doping Bill 2025. Special Advisor to the President on Senate Matters, Bashir Lado, made this known in a statement noting that the legislations reflect Tinubu's commitment to inclusive governance, equitable progress, and Nigeria's emergence as a global powerhouse. Lado said the commissions would serve as catalysts for industrial growth, job creation, and social advancement, ensuring that every corner of Nigeria benefits from Tinubu's administration's progressive vision. He added that Nigeria's Anti-Doping Bill 2025 solidified Nigeria's commitment to fairness, excellence, and integrity in global sports. In other news, Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan of Kogi Central has celebrated former Education Minister Obi Ezekwesili for taking insults on behalf at a Senate committee panel on Tuesday. In a post on her X handle on Wednesday, Akpoti-Uduaghan commended the former minister for being a champion of accountability and an icon of visionary leadership. She also apologized for the insults hurled at Ezekwesili at the petition hearing. Also in X, Ezekwesili replied, saying a torrent of insults from any source is but a little price to pay, and resolve to see a Nigerian that becomes. On Tuesday, tempers flared at a panel sitting in Abuja when Ezekwesili and counsel for Akpoti-Uduaghan, Abiola Kiyode Afolabi, represented the Kogi lawmaker before the Senate committee, which began sitting over the sexual harassment allegations involving Akpoti-Uduaghan and Senate President Godswill Akpabio. Just as the sitting began, a verbal clash ensued between a male lawmaker from Ebonyi North Senatorial District, Onyekachi Nwebonyi, and Ezekwesili, was a shouting match resulting to unprintable name-calling and gender-shaming. In the meantime, the sole administrator of Rivers State, Vice Admiral Ibok Ete-Ibas, has directed the heads of local government administration in the 23 local government areas of the state to submit the activities of their respective councils. Ibas said the heads of local government administration appointed by the suspended governor, Siminalayi Fubara, are to submit the report to the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Local Government. This was contained in a letter addressed to the heads of local government administration, signed by the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Local Government Affairs, Itongawani. Some of the requirements to be submitted include functions of councils, the number of staff on a nominal role, and sources of revenue of the local government areas, among others. It will be recalled that Fubara had directed the former elected government chairman in the 23 local government areas to hand over to the heads of local government administration following the Supreme Court judgment which nullified the local government elections conducted by the Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission in 2024. Meanwhile, RCEC had before the appointment of Ibas as sole administrator fixed August 9, 2025 to conduct fresh local government elections after it met with political parties and other stakeholders in the state. The Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Kudirat Kekereekun, has expressed worry over the practice of law in Nigeria and lamented the downturn in the adherence to ethical principles in the legal profession. She noted that strict adherence to ethical principles in the legal profession was not only dwindling, but facing serious challenges. The CJN stated this on Wednesday at the public presentation of the report of the Legal Practitioners Disciplinary Committee held at the Body of Benches complex in Abuja, Nigeria's political capital. To address the trend, Justice Kekereekun canvassed an urgent need for law practitioners to recommit themselves to the fundamental values of ethics, discipline, and professional responsibility. The CJN also recommended enforcement of professional discipline among legal practitioners through the Legal Practitioners Disciplinary Committee, which must be pursued with fairness, transparency, and unwavering resolve. In a similar development, Vice President Kashim Shettima has commended the judiciary for standing firm against vested interests, saying that by affirming President Bola Tinubu's mandate, it upheld the nation's faith and safeguarded its democratic future. Shettima stated this on Wednesday in Abuja at the Body of Benches maiden annual lecture and the public presentation of the report on the Legal Practitioners Disciplinary Committee's directions. He urged the judiciary to remain resolute in delivering justice and resisting external pressures that could threaten its independence. Shettima cautioned against the misconception that justice belongs to the loudest voices, emphasizing that true justice serves both the powerful and the voiceless. The vice president stressed that the foundation of any great nation rests on the moral strength of its institutions, adding that those who uphold justice must resist divisive sentiments and remain steadfast in their duties. Moving on, Osun State Governor Ademola Adeleke has directed the establishment of holding camps for people displaced in the recent Ifon-Ilobu and Osun communal clashes. The governor also said the 24-hour curfew continues amidst further tightening of security surveillance in the towns. What initially started as boundary disputes between Ifon and Ilobu communities in the early hours of Friday later spread to Osun on Saturday. The development forced the state government to reveal the earlier 12-hour curfew to a 24-hour restriction of movement in the affected towns. Apart from casualties recorded, many houses were razed in the three communities, forcing many of the residents to flee to Okini, Osogbo, and Ido-Osun to avoid being killed. Meanwhile, a statement by the spokesperson to the governor, Olawale Rashid, on Wednesday said the establishment of holding camps was a follow-up to the distribution of food and relief materials to the displaced people through the policies of the affected towns. The governor also commended security agencies for promptly implementing his directive for the grilling and prosecution of key ringleaders in the communal crisis. Shops and goods estimated that millions of naira have been destroyed by a night fire that razed the market on the popular Iweka Road, close to Ochanya Market in Onitsha, the Anambra State capital. The fire, which started at 8:30 p.m. on Tuesday, razed shops that had furniture materials such as ladders, foams, and others. Although the cause of the fire has yet to be ascertained, it was gathered that the fire raged for several minutes before the arrival of the firefighters, as some of the traders had already gone home before the fire started. Residents and sympathizers were seen trying to salvage some of the remnants of the goods in the shops while calling on the affected traders to come back to the market. Confirming the fire incident on Wednesday, spokesperson for the Anambra State Fire Service, Chukwudi Chiketa, said the agency received a distress call at 9:40 p.m. on Tuesday and deployed a crew of firemen and firefighting equipment to the scene. According to Chiketa, The crew stopped the fire from further escalation. You're watching news at 7 on Western Spring Television. Still to come, Minister of Interior Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo raises concerns over incarceration of over 26,000 children in custodial centers. We'll bring you more on this when we return. Stay with us.